Marcy McDonald, the Online Course Doctor, and I'm here to help you improve your online courses by unpacking what works, what doesn't, and what you can do to make them better. Today, for my new interview series, What They Went Through Behind the Scenes with the Best of the Best Course Creators, we'll be talking to entrepreneur and online course creator, Nicole Walters. Nicole is a dynamo. Well, by the time she was 28, Nicole was a highly paid executive at a Fortune 500 company. She was managing multi-billion-dollar accounts, but something wasn't right. Nicole says, quote, "My job was feeding my family, but not my soul," end quote. So Nicole, bold woman that she is, quit her corporate job to focus on opening her own private business and product development consulting firm, the Monetized Life. As her audience ramped up, so did her revenue. She made $11,000 in the first 3 weeks of working with small business clients full time. Now, when she's not hanging out with her husband and their 3 adopted children, she teaches her secrets to earning passive income through her wildly popular online course, 1K One Day. Nicole says, quote, "I teach people how to add commas to their bank accounts. They learn that they don't have to trade time for money," end quote. Well, I met Nicole in Toronto last summer at Stu McLaren's Tribe Live event, and I decided to test drive her online courses because I was so impressed. Now, those of you following me know that it takes a lot to impress me with an online course, but I rank her courses up with the best of the best. Hey, Nicole, thanks so much for taking time to talk with me today about your experiences making online courses. I know you don't do a lot of interviews, so I am really honored you agreed.
Of course, Marcy, it's my joy. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to focus on the elements that make your courses truly unique. So for me, and you know I'm an analytical kind of gal.
Oh, yes.
That's the way you combine solid but often non-mainstream business advice with motivational support and insights. It's how you put faith at the core of everything you do and how you're bold enough to be totally upfront about living a purpose-driven life. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to start there. Were you worried at first about being so true to yourself and your faith when you made Fierce Clarity, which was your first course?
Well, to be completely honest, I didn't realize I was doing anything weird. I actually thought I was just being myself. And it wasn't until I got into this space more and I heard more feedback of other people's course experiences that I realized there was kind of a cookie cutter format that everyone followed. Everybody wanted to look a certain degree of polished and everyone needed everything to be so pristine and perfect. And there was an image that everyone was trying to fit into. And I don't know if I want to call it the Tony Robbins, or the Marie Forleo, or I'm not sure what the fancy pants look is. And these are great, content creators. But the reality was when I came out there, I said, all I know how to be is me. And me is being honest and forthright about my faith. It's being honest and forthright about business and being, hard and driven, but also being compassionate and kind. And fortunately, people were receptive to that. And it actually, I think, has led to a better course experience. I think people have gotten more out of it.
I absolutely agree. It's amazing what true authenticity can do for amplifying your message and your message that's behind the content. But you mentioned business and business courses. So there are a lot of business courses out there, and you bring a rare combination. You bring corporate experience and entrepreneurial experience to the table. So in other words, you've got a ton of concrete insights to share. So besides being true to yourself, why is it so important to you to also blend motivation into your courses?
Well, first and foremost, the numbers and the business stuff can get really boring. If it's not something that you're familiar with, you get in there and someone's talking to me about things like profit and loss statements and balance sheets and all that good stuff. And it's like, snooze, I can't do this. But you know what, as a business owner, being familiar with those things, it's key to your profitability. So when you're able to cheer someone on and let them see the vision at the end of the tunnel, when you nail these things, this is what this can help you do, and let them know that it isn't isn't just making money, but knowing your profit and loss statement means that you'll have the extra money to pay for that Disney vacation for your kids. That is really key to actually keeping them driven and working hard towards finishing the goal and finishing your course. Marcy, I think I've heard you talk about this plenty of times, but one of the things that's super important to me is making sure that people finish their course. And it's something that doesn't happen often in this space. So for me, mixing those things, the motivational stuff, the non-mainstream digital teaching around building a business, that has led to a higher rate of people finishing the course, which means I get better results.
You bring up such an important point that many people don't think about or realize, that only 8 to 9% of people finish online courses, which is very distressing. So I love the way that you have really taken upon yourself to try to make sure people finish the course. And one way is through the motivation that we were just talking about. Now, when you started out with your first course, which is Fierce Clarity, did you have any idea that you would be making such an impactful course, one that would truly change lives, not just people's ideas about their businesses? And how did that influence what you put in the course and how you delivered it? You know, that you knew or you didn't know.
Right. So I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know. I made 1K one day first. So Fierce Clarity is my, quote unquote, first course, as in it's the first place that people are encouraged to go to prepare for the 1K one day experience. But what happened was I made 1K one day first and threw it into 2 forms of beta. And once they were in that initial beta version where people were testing it out and I was seeing how the customer utilized and interacted with the course, one of the main things that came out of it were people were saying, I don't know if I believe that I can do this work. And I'm not sure if I have clarity around the business that I'm supposed to be building, but I have all these great tools in front of me in 1K one day. And I'm loving this 1K one day, but I just don't know if I'm ready to utilize it correctly. And so I knew that instead of smashing on the equivalent of another course into 1K one day, which would drive down my completion rate because people will just be overwhelmed, I said what they need is a separate experience, something that they can do as a standalone in an evergreen format that they're able to go through every single day, if necessary, to build up that confidence that'll help them be better business owners, better examples in general. And then when they're ready, they can go into 1K one day. And so now if someone enrolls in 1K one day, I actually give them Fierce Clarity as part of that experience because that's how passionate I am about the work and how capable it makes people in getting things done.
That is a really interesting story. I totally get the idea of listening to your avatar, as it's called, but few people listen that well.
Well, it's that, I mean, again, I'm so, as much as people, talk about how lucrative the course world is, because I mean, it is a very profitable business with low margins. At the end of the day, I am driven to have people actually win and apply this information. So if people aren't finishing your course, they're not getting results. And guess what? You're going to spend more money on marketing dollars because they're not going to tell their friends about it either. So I want people to finish my course. And that means that I need them to be confident enough to do so. So when they were going through that experience, and which is why I always tell everyone your first couple of course rounds, no matter how finished you think you are really only a beta, because you got to get that feedback from people. So once I was getting that feedback, I said, wow, the course isn't what really needs prepared. These people's mental mindsets need prepared before they can actually start doing this course and getting the most out of it. And the answer then became the hard work. What were the things I needed to know as an entrepreneur before I was willing to sit down and actually do the tools and the steps and utilize the resources? And the answer was, I needed to believe I could. And I needed to have clarity around how I would. And that led to Fierce Clarity being born.
That is fascinating. You know, I completely changed my own course creation strategy based on your model. So I'm starting out with a small course on how to create your course concept, how to nail your course concept step by step, because you cannot build anything on a course, although a lot of people try, if you haven't really pinned down a clear focus for your one core idea, which is the exact same for the business that you're teaching.
That's exactly right. And often as experts, we have a tendency to get right to the, here's how you do it, and here's how you do it, because it comes so naturally for us. But the truth is, if we're teaching that knowledge, we got to take them back to move them forward. So we have to, what did you not know when you first got started? And going back and sort of filling those gaps can be a game changer in results for people when they're finally building their own businesses.
Right. So your strategy to start small and step forward is one that I would assume you now recommend, and that I'm recommending to my clients too. Excuse me. So do you think everyone should follow that? Or do you think there are some times when you might start out with that big course that you dream of?
As great as 1K one day is, the thing that I always recommend to course creators is that you have to get into the mindset of your consumer. So the student that you have coming to you, guess what? They're a blank slate. Let's assume that they don't know anything. What do you really need to know before you can get started? So while you might want to say, if you're having someone coming in a knitting course, you might say, okay, well, here's how you knit a scarf. Well, the first thing that they need to know are, what are the supplies that I need in order to knit a scarf? So you got to take them back to move them forward. So instead of diving right into the thing that you think they really want to know, sometimes you may need to get them the supplies, the mindset, and the basic stitches, so that way they're able to create the product that they actually want to get to. And that's the thing that I always teach people, and I wish I knew myself when I'd first gotten started.
Absolutely. So start with the smallest point, the most basic thing, the foundation, and then move forward in your ensuing courses from there, right?
Exactly right.
So I want to tap into the secret side of Nicole here for just a second. Get into
man, I'm like, what does that look like?
It's fun, but what was the scariest thing about making that first online course, which we now know was not Fierce Clarity, but 1K one day, and how'd you get over it?
The scariest part is really putting yourself out there, right? Because I am so passionate about entrepreneurs building businesses the right way and applying corporate knowledge and actual details in order to grow, that it was really, really difficult for me to know that if I put myself out there, I was going to be open to criticism. I was going to be open to judgment. And I also knew that if none of this worked, that failure may be an event and not a person, but I also knew that it meant that I let people down because I had this knowledge I wanted to share. And if it didn't get out there, it didn't work, So that was easily the scariest part for me. I just put my whole heart and soul into it. And I just really wanted it to be received and applied. And that is probably I still struggle with that. Every single launch, every single class, every single group. I'm like, please let this be the group that gets even better results than the last one.
Well, you're talking about doing it in fear and doing it anyway. So you model that.
Yes.
Well, okay. Let's talk about bad advice. So what's one piece of advice about making a course that you got when you were starting out that you're really glad you didn't follow? And why?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what's funny? Nobody ever asked me that. So that's a great question. The worst piece of advice, at least for me, because it may apply for other people, was for me to get out of my course. Meaning I was basically told that like the first thing you want to do is automate the heck out of your course experience and make sure that you are not involved. So launch it and leave it was the advice. And that you never wanted to be too involved because then you couldn't extract yourself. And I just didn't do that. It just didn't feel like it was in integrity with who I am. And it also didn't really make sense to me from a corporate standpoint. I wanted to be very hands-on, particularly in the beginning, so I could find out where people's pain points really were. And I mean, all this stuff is in my brain, but once people start using it, it might look completely different. What they may need, I might be teaching them about, building a product this way when what they really wanted to know was how to build a product that way, So I really needed to be involved in that process. And then even now going into what will be my next launch will be my 9th launch of 1K one day. I'm still very present. I have a team that helps me with my launch, but I definitely interact and I definitely still answer questions. I'm definitely still engaged and keeping temperature on my students. And I've been able to do that over the span of, it'll be 4 years in 2019 and 9 launches and over $2 million in sales. And so even though I started with just $1 and being interactive, I've scaled to, a huge course that is still interactive, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon.
Nicole, that high level of engagement and commitment is one of the reasons I give your courses such a high mark.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's one of the things that I get is like actually a big feature, and it's something that I always recommend to new course creators. If nothing else, serve, because you're only as good as your name, and you're only as good as your students when they apply your information. So,
absolutely. Well, I know that you've got other things in the burner, and not making more courses, but if you could make a course that was tied to your most personal mission, to the project closest to your heart, regardless of whether it made money or how much it cost, what would it be and why?
oh wow. I love children, and I love helping children realize their potential. And so one of the things that's closest to my heart is really creating a world that, is sustainable and safe and a healthy planet that children are able to grow and thrive in. So if I could ever create a course, it would be about how to live a healthy, sustainable life, with, which is kind of nerdy, I guess, but about, recycling and composting and all those great things, but then also integrating, your children into that process so that way they're able to really live just a really well-rounded life and look at life with all the potential. So growing up, I was one of those kids that just felt limitless. Even though I did things, I still had the fear, but I did it through the fear. And I would love to be able to gift that to future generations so that they're able to do that as well.
Well, noble ambition. I think you actually have quite a few courses packed in that answer. Yeah,
sure do.
Which sounds great. I hope they end up on your horizon.
Me too.
So Nicole, we have just a few minutes left, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more about Fierce Clarity. Now, you mentioned this earlier in the interview, but I'd like you to just tell those of us who are watching what they could get out of it and what would be the reason to take the course, really.
Sure. So Fierce Clarity is something I created for someone who is just not sure if entrepreneurship is right for them, or they know that they're meant for something more, but they just haven't nailed what exactly that is or how to articulate it. So this is the place to start. Before you even really start building, you've got to have an idea around what your best skills are, and you've got to have the confidence that you deserve to pursue them. And Fierce Clarity helps you get that clarity around what that concept is, how to articulate it, and if you're ready to pursue it. And I'll go ahead and give your people the plot twist at the end. I may tell you that entrepreneurship is not right for you, and that you need to take some time to figure out exactly where you are. And you don't hear that often from online experts, but the reality is, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. And I want to make sure that people are getting what they need out of it. So that's what I teach. I love it.
It's a terrific course. I really recommend it. And I love actually that at the end you say, this might not be for everyone. I copied that, and at the end of my course say, you know what, making courses isn't for everyone. Yep, not everything is for everyone.
That's right. And I think that we're missing a little bit of that in this space. Everyone, you get that pressure like, oh, everyone should be an entrepreneur. Everyone should create a course. And you know what, if that's not your space, it doesn't mean your message doesn't still have a platform. It just may mean that this isn't the one. And that's okay, because you're still obligated to chase after it. That's your God-given mission. Chase after your platform and get your message to the people. And what's exciting is that we get to give people lots of different ways to figure that out.
You know what? I was going to ask you to give one last bit of advice to course creators out there and entrepreneurs, but I think you just gave it to us.
That's it.
Perfectly. So, Nicole, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
That's it. It was a pleasure to be with you, Marcy. Thank you so much. If anyone wants to know anything more about me, they can head over to NicoleWalters.com.
Right. And friends, be sure to check below this video for links to not only NicoleWalters.com, but also to our course, Fierce Clarity. And while you're looking at links, I want you to make sure you sign up for weekly insightful guidance and tips from me, your online course doctor. I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye, guys.